they were serving some sort of buns, but it said like in English it was like bum nudes or something like that. So it was like I was like, okay.
先前韩国瑜再次公开演讲时，全程中英文夹杂，使得晶晶体再次受到讨论及模仿。而根据国际文教机构调查，台湾人的英文程度落后于南韩、中国、越南等国家，在亚洲国家里排名第9，仅仅小赢日本。那么在外国人眼中，台湾人的英文好吗？他们觉得台湾是个英文友善的国家吗？ Based on your observation, what is the average English level of the Taiwanese people?
Compared to other countries, I think in Taiwan the level in English is pretty good.
If I would grade it from 1 to 10, I would say in Taipei itself around an 8. If I go outside of Taipei, more like 4 or 5.
100%, I'll give them a little 65, 60.
I think a 4 or 5 at least. And it seems like a lot of people, I don't know, it's around. Way better than my Chinese level.
It's really hit and miss. I feel like people are either really good at speaking English or it's just very basic, minimal to no English.
I couldn't really say about Taiwan. I could say a bit about Taipei. I think it's better than one would expect.
Average level of English speaking in Taiwan is quite good, while people are sometimes a little shy speaking English with you.
Can you share with us an interesting story because of miscommunication in English?
This first time that I came to Taipei, I was in a restaurant and I asked if it was spicy or not. And she said it's spicy. And I asked how spicy. But she thought when I said how, I was saying how. So she just brought out a really spicy dish.
This Friday I was going to Seoul in Korea. I was on my way to the airport in my Uber and I started talking to my Uber driver in Mandarin and talking about how hungry I am, and I was asking him what kinds of restaurants you would have at the airport, and I said I don't want any fast food, I really like Taiwanese food and I want to eat this, and this. And I didn't pay attention for a second. I looked at my phone. The next thing I know, we're not going to the airport, we're at the Ximending district eating in an amazing Neuromian place. And
once I was kicked out of the bus and I didn't know why. I think I got the wrong card, or maybe it was just for elderly people or something, but the bus driver wasn't able to tell me why I shouldn't take the bus.
I was in Xi'an once in China, restaurant where they had like the menu and it was just directly translated from Mandarin. They were serving some sort of buns, but it said like in English it was like bum nudes or something like that. So it was like I was like okay.
When you're around, when you look at the post signs or listening to announcements, do you feel like Taiwan is an English-friendly place?
No, not at all. I think there's a lot of street signs that are not in English. Everything basically was a struggle when I first came because I spoke no Chinese and couldn't read characters. And I was really surprised actually by how little English was spoken here.
I'm just either going like restaurants or shops. It's usually not super good.
On the night markets, I think there the English level is a bit lower, so then it's more like hand signs.
50-50, like on the MRT, everything is like in English. But if I look at like a bus stop, like if you have the digital signs, they give you the bus number. That's fine, like no English involved. But if you have like one of these posts, yeah, it's not in English, so it's like, yeah, okay.
If you're looking at countries like Thailand, Indonesia, at least the places I've been to, they were very touristic, especially for Western people, and that's why they engaged more in English. But if you compare it like to mainland China, I think their English is worse than here, and it's less English friendly, for example.
I went to the supermarket once, and I always kind of try and go like ni hao, ni hao ma, like that kind of stuff, and sometimes they just instantly switch to English.
For me, I've always just taken the view that it's not the Taiwanese people's responsibility to speak English, it's my responsibility to speak Chinese.
Since you're here?
Yeah, since I'm here, yeah.
And that's a funny thing about being here and like so much English being like, you know, always accessible is, you know, there's never those sorts of concessions made in America. I think it's also like the type of racism that Americans are for the most part, like you're not going to be willing to learn how to speak English like as fluently as I and get the heck out of here. I don't know, it's annoying as hell.
Do people in your country speak many different languages?
No, we don't. Strictly English.
In Honduras, our main language is Spanish. In Belize, the main language is English.
Yeah. We only speak English.
And most people do not feel the need to learn a foreign language.
No. And it's really bad.
I personally think it's really beneficial and that more people should be doing it. But yeah, a lot of Americans don't try to learn a second language.
People are very into, American YouTubers and things like that. So I'd say there's definitely an interest from Swedish people to learn English.
Well, usually people say that in France we don't have a great level in English, so because French people don't make any efforts to speak English.
I think English people are very, very lazy. So the Scandinavians, the Germans, the Dutch speak fantastic English, and it's a very conscientious effort that other nations have to speak multi-languages. But because we are English, we get away with it. And because English is so relevant.
Maybe we are just more comfortable speaking, but I don't really think that our vocabulary is so much better.
Nobody here speaks Dutch except for us. We're sort of forced to speak English, that's why.
Elementary school, you have only English and Dutch. In high school, you get the choice between French and German.
So most Dutch people are at least trilingual.
Yes. English is mandatory.
Yeah, they do have foreign languages in our countries. We study Spanish and French.
What about you two? Do you two speak?
I started to do Spanish and then I forget about it. Then I started French and I forget about it also.
Just a part of the education. Everybody will grow up bilingual. English is taught most of the time from the first grade, the latest in the third grade, and I think it becomes a part of your identity. It makes you feel as if you're a part of just not your country, but you're more of a global citizen. I didn't really know how to tell him that is not at all what I wanted, but in the end it felt like it was the only right thing to do. I arrived at the airport, I made it for my weekend trip, so all in all a very positive experience of a miscommunication.
An English person goes anywhere in the world, they will think that they can get by on English. And I mean, I've done it. Right? You go anywhere, and if somebody else doesn't speak English, it's like, why don't you speak English? And the only place that's like that is if you go to mainland China. Because they think, 1.4 billion people, you don't speak Chinese. Like, what? I don't understand it.